Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, April 3rd of 2018. Um, Multiculturalism. Um, a political issue or a national security issue? Um, I've been thinking about that. And, you know, people say multiculturalism, first and foremost, has nothing to do with racism. Nothing. Nothing. It doesn't even correlate with racism. Multiculturalism is a cultural divide. We have a multiracial culture, a multiracial country, and we also have a culture. Of course, it's been separated and disjointed, and the cities, the shithole cities that some of the unfortunate minorities have to live in, create a cultural difference that politicians can take advantage of. We didn't have these culture problems in the middle and late 20th century. So, what's the difference between a political issue and a cultural issue? I'll tell you, in my eyes, or a political issue or a national security issue. First of all, let's take taxes. Taxes is a political issue. Some guys come in and they lower taxes, and then the next guy comes in and he can raise taxes. School choice, a little more, a little less. We can tweak alcohol laws, and we can give and take on drug laws, and we can, there's a push back and forth on property ownership laws and covenants and just everywhere in our society, in the legal system, both criminal and civil, there's a two-directional push, and things can correct themselves. But multiculturalism and open borders is uncorrectable. War is uncorrectable. If you lose it, it's an experiment. And think about this. And this is not. This is just purely academic thinking. With a little precautionary, with a little edge of what could happen on it. So say 100 million people who don't assimilate into our melting pot culture. Say we end up with 100 million people who can't stand the country, like what's happening in Europe. Culture clashes. What's happening in South Africa? What's happening in South Africa between black and whites? What's happening in horrible ways in Northern Africa? What's happening in Europe? So a bunch of people immigrate for bullshit reasons. I can give you my opinion of what the reason is, but the collapse of the West. Have you ever heard about Rome? Do you read about Rome? This is exactly what happened to Rome. So anyway, so then people come in. Let's stay on Europe for a minute, because that one's South Africa's they were separate cultures. Mandela, the Rainbow Coalition, brought these two cultures together. Multiculturalism. And now the African majority, the African National Congress majority, is going to, it looks like they're going to, at minimally, take all the Afrikaners, which are the white South Africans, farmland for nothing, not even with any compensation for it. And people are fleeing to Australia right now because there's a do or die thing. It's like the head of the political party over there, I'm going to paraphrase it, he said they either give up their land because it's the law, or they suffer the consequences. And since the chants outside were death to Whitey, I would imagine the consequences aren't detention, you know. So that's not. And you know what? Like I said before, it's just because it's black white, it could be white black. In Northern Africa, it's Islam, Northern African peoples of all different countries. Islam's coming into predominantly black, non-Caucasian large areas of Africa where I guess the people, you know, I don't know everything about it, but there's Christians down there, and I'm sure there's all kinds of belief systems down there, and the Muslims aren't having any of it. They're taking advantage of these peasants, and they're converting them, or they're killing them, or enslaving them, or selling them, or, you know, whatever mayhem happens when mayhem happens. Example number 2. Europe. The godless bastards in the EU. I can't understand how civilized, intelligent people can do what they did to Europe. Because Europe is being multicultured. And the newcomers don't want to live they don't even want to live in a Christian Western European society. They don't want that. They don't even want that. They don't even respect that. They don't respect the laws. So what's going to happen when the numbers get astronomical and the death rate gets astronomical? If that happens, let's just say it's happening now, and as I said in another video, a selective enforcement of laws, the guys that some of this EU goon squad bastards are most afraid of are pissing off the newcomers. So they're not enforcing the laws. They're not enforcing the rape laws. They're not enforcing the genital mutilation laws. They're not enforcing the adult minor sexual relationship laws. And what's going to happen? Say it doesn't work, and say, I don't know how many people are in Europe, but say half the people in Europe, because certainly the birth rate among the Muslim communities, probably, which has a lot to do with the welfare system in these socialist countries. People can come over and do nothing. They have a lot of time. Whereas at the same time, they have the European feminists working their asses off, not worrying about their families. 1.3 children, 6.4 children. That doesn't end well. So what's going to happen when they don't get along and it becomes intolerable? How do they do it? You know, other countries have split in half. There have been massacres, civil wars. Think about the end game. So that's that. So now today I look and we've got it's almost like these globalists and these progressives and these Silicon Valley guys too, you know, they're like, whenever we come up with a problem, they just shove more shit down our throat. So now we got a mini Europe going on, coming up from Honduras. I don't know, a couple 10,000 people or something. They're just going to cross the border. Do you know what happens if they get across the border? Forget it. If we don't stop them at the border, there'll be 20 million people into this country within the next 5 years. These people are making ultimatums to our government and making demands. How many demands have I made of my government? You know, we don't make demands. So anyway, it ends in war and death and destruction. It always will. It always has. Rome, the Crusades. I don't know if that may have been a bit of a defensive position. Certainly Islam and Muhammad, he was a conqueror. Islam has always been an aggressive, socio-political, very male-dominated religion. They're conquestors. That's all they know. They do it in many ways, you know. Their book tells them to lie. They call us infidels. So let me read about one thing. I'm just going to read you a little thing. It's called the cultural collapse theory, and I don't know where it's from, you know. But I'm going to read the characteristics of it, the progression of it, because whether you like it or not, it's happening. The cultural collapse progression. The first sign of it is the removal of religious narrative from people's lives, replaced by a treadmill of scientific and technological progress. 2. Elimination of traditional sex roles through feminism, gender equality, political correctness, cultural Marxism, and socialism. 3. Delay and abstainment of family formation by women to pursue careerist lifestyles while men wait in confused limbo. 4. Decreased birth rate among native populations. 5. Government enactment of open immigration policies to prevent economic collapse. 6. Immigrant refusal to fully assimilate, forcing host cultures to adopt external rituals and beliefs while being out reproduced. And 7. Natives becoming marginalized in their own country. You have at it, guys. You want that stuff? Do you really want that? Because we're halfway down that list already. My biggest complaint about feminism, first of all, they're angry and mean and self-righteous, the worst of them, and mean-spirited. And then the moderates are they just don't listen, you know. They just say, well, you can't be right because you're not pro-feminist. They forgot about the kids. Same shit I've been saying for 10 years. I just feel like saying it now. And since nobody listened to me before, I think I'll say it now. Multiculturalism is a lie. It's a nice word. That's all it is. Multiculturalism. There is no such thing. Culture is your own. You have a culture in your own house. And then your community has hopefully a similar culture, and your community at large, our country, has a bond of culture and history and Christianity and family, work, dreams, freedom, speech. Islam hates free speech. They hate it. They hate it. Progressives hate free speech. Why? Why do progressives hate free speech? Why is it that I'm the crazy one? Or that I'm the ridiculous one? Or the racist, or the homophobe, or the, whatever you want to call people that think things too rationally and come up with uncomfortable observations and conclusions? Would you rather just cover your eyes, like I said, the deaf, dumb, and blind monkeys? Would you rather just cover your eyes and feel good about the things you're doing, even though in the end they'll result in horrible consequences? Cause and effect. Cause and effect. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's so important. It's such a little line. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And the sad part about it is, because the family and the lack of motherly concern for future generations of her own, she supplants that with this multiculturalism feel-good thing and doesn't think about where her great-grandchildren or her grandchildren are going to be. Or his. I see it in men and women. There's nothing racist about wanting to close our southern border. I want to close both borders. I want to have sovereignty. I want to have a culture. I want our country to have a common culture. You know? You can be any color and have the same culture. Any sex, any color, any age, and have a culture. History's riddled with disastrous multiculturalism. I don't know them all, but that whole Bosnia thing was a multicultural massacre. And, you know, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? I don't know all the time. You know? They don't really tell us. They pick sides, but we don't really know who the good guys are. Right now, you wouldn't even think there was something going on in South Africa. And clearly, the black Africans right now are the bad guys. Clearly. They're talking about really ugly things at podiums, you know. We're not talking about backroom deals. We're talking about chanting ugly things at political rallies with thousands and thousands of people at them. Where did we see that before? I think we might have seen that in Germany in the 30s. Saw it there. So I've seen it in a lot of places. You know? Why do you want to shove... And it's all... The really worst part of it is the Democrats are completely duped. It's no good for you. It's no good for your children. It's no good for our country. Collapse our country. You don't care about the 21 trillion. It's all about money and power. And you don't got either of them. So why is it about you if it's about money and power? What does it do for you? It lowers wages for the corporate world, brings us down to the playing field of China and Mexico. You want to work for $5 a day? Like it or not? Because that's what will happen once they get enough leverage. You know, once you don't have the leverage once you have no leverage except your belly, then you don't have any leverage at all. Because if you don't have a voice, it really just comes down to working to eat, which is what they want. If people work to eat, they got nothing else to do. They got nothing to say. They don't make problems. They don't start movements. And they're sucking you right into it. My God, I thought I'd never see a day. You know, Reagan gave them that amnesty thing. It was the worst thing he could do. People have to come into a country at a controlled rate so they can assimilate, you know, and not congregate and populate cities and take over that government and then a state, and then you just got problems. California right now, 55,000 homeless vagrants in Los Angeles. 55,000. And I think, I don't remember what the date was, but it was 35,000. I don't know how many. It could have been just a year or two ago, but it could have been 5 or something like that, 10. I'm not sure. All I know is they went from 35,000 vagrant homeless to 55,000. And they want open borders? They're lunatics. They're out of their mind lunatics. There's no jobs as it is. Technology's taken job after job. You know, we got one girl working 8 counters at the grocery store checkout. You know, 2 bank tellers at a bank on a Monday the other day. In Bank of America in Marathon I was online for 15 minutes to make a deposit. Because they want me to use the outside thing. If I wait long enough, someday they'll just make me comfortable enough that I'll go outside and they'll lay another one of those $12 an hour kids off. And And those kids will, if I ever said something like, that machine out there is going to take your job. And they say, oh, those machines will create many, many other jobs. My ass, they will. That's bullshit. Total bullshit. Show me. Show me where taking all these jobs away, and their efficiency at using technology to make weapons of war and to unemploy human beings is where they shine. The third place they shine is on infiltrating our lives with our complete lack of privacy on the internet now. And you want these people in charge? You want them to take our guns? You want them to shut somebody up for a microaggression, which leads to shutting other people up for micros, and then all of a sudden it's a macro, and then all of a sudden it's like you can't say anything that hurts anybody's feelings, especially if they're the leaders, if they're the ones in power. Who's to decide? That upset me. Oh, tough shit. Tough shit. Anyway, I'm 56. It's going to be an interesting 20 years. And whether anybody believes what I have to say on these videos, or the massive amount of other people on YouTube that they've quarantined to the conservative side. You see, YouTube don't send information. There's a big wall. There's a wall. YouTube and Google and Facebook, to the best of their ability, they wall off conservatives and liberals, Democrats and Republicans. They wall off. I looked at the people who are reading these things. No, this isn't making it to Europe. Why not? This is the internet. They wall off countries. Countries tell them, we don't want these people, we don't want this message coming across our border. We don't want Lauren Southern coming across our border into the UK. It's okay to bring in a couple 100,000 undocumented third world, culturally clashing men of unknown origins. But Lauren Southern, the blonde-haired little Canadian girl who 20, what is she, 22, Mary?
Yeah, I think so.
22-year-old girl who's a passionate, excellent, on-site, get the scoop journalist. She's doing that big thing on South Africa, which I would really, what's it called, Mayor? It's a big
something about the farmland?
Documentary on South Africa. Farmlands. I'm going to put a link to it on my site. It's coming out soon. It's big. It's not like a little YouTube like this. She's been down there. It's the real deal. And I'm anxious to see it, because just watching Lauren on YouTube, she's not like giving her 2 cents like me, which is, I'm entitled to give my 2 cents. She's down there interviewing people that say all these horrible things about the farmers, and she's interviewing farmers about the bars and on their doors and the perimeters and the firearms and the dead husbands and dead fathers and shot in the back and butchered, stuff like that, and the little groups of, it's almost, and I think, they talk about us. I could be wrong on this one. Check it yourself, but they're so bad down there. Unfortunately, in this country, a lot of African Americans are on welfare and on assistance programs, and that shouldn't be. Democratic Party did that. I believe, in the cities, they got their voters. Needy people who can easily be angered. And they don't want to live like that. That's no way for a free man to live, or a family, or a woman. So anyway, apparently these there and all the white people in South Africa aren't farmers. Obviously, there's all different kinds. There's millions and millions of people down there, and they don't. I don't think that they've taken them off the welfare system. At least that's the impression I got. I could be wrong. I'll always say if I'm not sure about something. In other words, if you're white and you're poor, you don't get your food stamps in South Africa. You don't get a place to live. At least that's what I've been reading. To a degree. I'm not versed on it enough to really say for sure. But I don't even know what the end game of these globalists is. I really don't know what it is. I don't know. But it's moving forward, man. It is moving forward. And I watch stuff. I've never seen anything like this. Where they just ignore laws. And this is going to be big. This thing coming up, this group of people coming up from the Central America. Because it's it's like an image of what's happening in Europe. And Europe's being destroyed. It's like, oh, those guys over there, it's not working for them. I know. Let's do what they're doing. Hey. It's just the way it is, like it or not. That's what you all are doing. In the name of... I understand maybe why the corporations and the multinationals doing it for money, because that's all they care about. They don't have as many issues at the voting booth as we do. We have the family, work, this, that, taxes. They just, all that is for them is money. The police department, they don't worry about that. They don't pay. Corporate America doesn't pay for the police department. We pay for the police department. I just don't understand why the people have fallen so prey to this. People my age, they just consume it. They get them on a what do you call it? They fractionalize people. They make little movements. They get massive amounts of people that vote the same way because of an issue. Like the feminist movement. Oh my God, I couldn't vote for my culture or my children because my husband's a bigot. Or those white guys are bigots. Or those black guys now, a lot of black guys I've been talking to are conservatives. They turn the poor city people against everybody. It's easy to do. And they ruin them. Because every young black boy, and you can't live with the resentment. You can't function with hate. You end up a young black man who grows up learning hate and hatred and victim. You ruin his life. And you call us the bad guys. And you're the ones ruining their lives. Shame on you. My smile on a stick progressive Stepford friends. I'm disappointed in you, You're a sad lot. That's all I got. Thanks.